So the community here has grown quite a bit in just the last couple of weeks, and something I did when I first started the channel and my first video kind of took off was I threw out a quick Q&A, just anything that you want to ask for someone of the perspective of someone who has been watching wrestling for only about a year and a half, who is trying to learn as much as they can, trying to enjoy wrestling as much as they can. If you're not new, then you already know that I have been trying different promotions. I do stuff on Patreon where I watch New Japan matches, AEW, WWE, TNA, old stuff, new stuff. I'm watching current day PLEs. I'm watching super old PLEs. A lot. It's totally fair that a longtime fan might be curious about the perspective of a newer fan, and I'm happy to give that to you. I made a post asking anybody who wants to ask any question, but don't worry, if you missed that post, you're not too late. Drop a comment, ask anything. Anything as it pertains to professional wrestling, my fandom, how I've gotten into it, anything you want. First 24 hours that this video is up, I will answer as long as it's within reason. I look forward to seeing you down in the comments. Maybe don't only ask what's my favorite of something. I might give different people different answers because, again, I've only been watching for so long, so my favorites of things switches all the time as I'm still learning. But don't let me tell you what to do. Ask whatever you want. Obi-Wan says, how did you first hear of AEW, and what was your initial reaction to discovering that there is another major wrestling company out there? So I first heard about it because the video game was coming out, AEW Fight Forever, and unfortunately, I played the video game before I watched the show, which, if you haven't played the video game, I'll let you know that it was a bad first impression. The show, AEW, 100 times better than the video game. If you enjoyed the video game, I'm happy for you. I don't. But I didn't actually hear about it and actually know it was something that was accessible until I had been watching the WWE for a little bit. When I was first watching the WWE, I wasn't really looking at it the way I'm looking at it now. I wasn't reaching for history. I was just trying to learn what was right in front of me. I was just trying to learn the wrestlers that were on my TV, and I was just hooked on watching the Bloodline story. So I didn't really get into looking and even discovering that there were other promotions and looking into the history of everything until probably almost into my first year. I was so locked in on just trying to learn the pro wrestling that was right in front of me. The Wrestling Old Head says, is there anything from the past that you've watched that holds up in a sense that it seems like it could have happened today and been just as awesome? I'm not gonna lie to you, there's a lot of stuff from the past that I have watched that I do not think would hold up today. But if you made me pick something that I think could work just with the way people are, maybe the 24/7 belt, I feel like could be brought back, especially with the way social media is used nowadays. I really feel like that they could post just on Twitter or on something on TikTok, wherever, post it everywhere, that a title change had happened. Almost like the 24/7 belt, almost like a better version of the speed belt. I feel like, what if it was like a social media belt where all the time you could watch it change hands and see quick segments on social media, and then, yeah, it could still make appearances on the show, but I feel like the 24/7 belt is just perfect for a social media era. Now, I'll tell you something that I do not think would hold up, and I don't mean the obvious stuff. There's some obvious stuff that would never hold up today, but something that really worked really well looking back on that I don't think would hit very well today. I think the Undertaker streak would be heavily criticized today. Now, granted, from what I understand, the Undertaker streak was not based around a title. It's not like he was keeping a title from anyone. So I'm not really trying to compare it to the Roman Reigns title reign where everybody was annoyed that he was never around. It wasn't, not like that, but a very common complaint that I see that drives me nuts when I'm watching a PLE or any program and I see fans say, well, it was predictable, but it was still a good show, or just everybody throws the word predictable in there. And the reality is, I don't even think a lot of things are that predictable. Even if, now there's some that I can agree, like if you talk about the AJ Styles turning on John Cena, a lot of people can call that literally predictable because it was mirroring something that had happened in the past with Mark Henry. But just saying that a result of a match was predictable when, I mean, duh, like how many endings could there be? So I think you would see a lot of people saying, well, it sucks, you know, the Undertaker is obviously going to win, that was predictable, but it was still a pretty good match. I mean, for all I know, that's what people were actually saying back in the day when it was happening. I think there would be just weird complaining about the Undertaker winning being so predictable, and then of course he would eventually lose like he did, and everybody would just be pissed that he didn't lose the right way. I can talk about predictability and why it doesn't matter in a whole another video, if I'm being honest. Official says, are you a video game person? If so, would you be interested in playing any of the WWE games in videos? Great content, by the way. Thank you. So I wouldn't play the games on video for like YouTube, but I stream on Twitch. So if anybody wants to just hang out with me, I stream like once or twice a week over on Twitch. Deporticus on Twitch. I mean, all the links are down in the description, so you guys are welcome to head over there. I know a lot of the YouTube crowd doesn't really hang out on Twitch, but some of you do. So if you want to hang out over there while we play WWE 2K24, yeah, we have like a community federation over there where if you're a subscriber to the Twitch channel, we put you in the federation, and we simulate the matches, and we bet on them with the currency system on Twitch. It's a good time. We usually just talk wrestling while we watch simulated matches, and it's just fun. So Deporticus on Twitch, come hang out. Bluetech says, given you first discovered a lot of wrestlers via the video games, are there any with fun movesets or looks that you really haven't seen much of on TV that you'd love to know more about? Awesome that we had those questions almost perfectly back to back, but it's also really perfect. You asked a question that I have the answer for now that I would not have had for you a week ago. So yeah, there were some fun movesets in the games that I had played like on 2K. I played a little bit of 2K like the years leading up to me actually finally watching wrestling, but the movesets that were in my first ever wrestling game, so technically my first exposure to wrestling, was on the N64. So the movesets on there weren't particularly flashy and super cool, but I had seen a move in a recent 2K game that I thought, wow, that looks insane. There's no way somebody actually does it. And someone just did it on NXT No Mercy. I only saw the highlight of it. I don't know his name, but I believe it was called like a UFO cutter, where they jump off the rope, they go over the person, and it's almost like they hit an RKO on the way down. It's wild. I'd only seen it in the video game. I think I put it on my character as one of my finishers, and I just saw it actually happen, so that was kind of cool. Wave Magic says, is there a specific match type you would love to see in person? A ladder match, for sure. A ladder match, I think that'd be cool. I've seen a good chunk of different type. I've seen like Extreme Rules, and I've seen, unfortunately, an MMA rules match. I've technically seen a battle royal. It was the Slim Jim one at SummerSlam 2023. I think a ladder match would be cool. It doesn't have to be for Money in the Bank. That would be cool though, but any sort of a ladder match would be really sick. I Am Hades says, thoughts on Cena's upcoming retirement tour? How familiar are you with John Cena besides his memes? Do you plan to watch any of his older stuff or the A&E docs to prepare? I need one last Cena Orton match. Well, I hope you get it. In terms of how I feel about the retirement tour, I'm excited that I got into wrestling in time to see a full year of him like participating. I've seen a handful of his matches on the Patreon, but I haven't actually dug into like his story. So that is probably a good idea. I should probably look into that so that I can appreciate his 2025 retirement tour a little bit more. So good idea. That might be one of the documentaries we watch together over on Patreon. NTC says, judging based on what you've heard and seen of the late Vince era, do you believe you would be as much of a fan as you are now and watching weekly, going to live events, etc. during that era like you are currently now, or do you think you may have tuned out by now? I will say I feel like I am very fortunate that I got in when I did. If I wasn't going to get in as a kid or now, I don't know if I would have stuck with it. If I would have gotten into it in my 20s, that would have put me in the 20 teens era, and I've only heard and I've seen some pretty rough examples of how that era was going. I know there's some good stuff, but I can't feel 100% confident that I would be as much of a diehard as I am right now. So maybe if I would have grown up and actually watched during the Attitude Era, I think I would have. I know I would obviously right now, but I can't say that I would have. Maybe I would have tried it and thought, okay, this is kind of cool. But I wonder if the lack of story and like something like an alternative like AEW didn't exist yet. So I don't know. Maybe the accessibility wasn't even there in the 20 teens to watch other promotions. I'm really not sure, but I'd say probably not. I feel pretty lucky that I stopped, or that I didn't watch then and I actually started right when I did. If anything, I wish I could have started like a year earlier so I could have seen the whole Sammy portion of the Bloodline. Ryan says, what is your favorite PLE since you started watching? SummerSlam 2024. Got to go. It was fantastic. Got to see Roman's return. 5-star show in my book. Had a blast. Never gonna forget that night. Ketis says, has any wrestling lingo or phrase snuck into your vocabulary? Example, I do sometimes say that doesn't work for me, brother, when I don't want to do something. Yeah, me and Tally both do it. If you don't know, Tally's my fiance. We got into wrestling together, and we do it all the time. What's really common is we do like themes. We'll sing random entrance music just walking around the apartment. My most recent one is whenever I try to make her laugh and she doesn't laugh at my joke, or if she dismisses it, I'll just tell her that I'll say that she no-sold on my joke or something like that. There's a little bit that comes into, overall, yes, I can't think of a ton of them right off the top of my head, but very commonly we're just blurting out like just parts of entrance themes, and it's taken over our life. Don't help me though, I'm fine. Big L says, in watching some of your watch-alongs, HBK and Taker for example, it was clear that you knew some of their moves, taunts, etc. Which video games did you play to learn these, and why did you play wrestling games if you weren't a wrestling fan? I mean, I don't like golf, and I've played like Tiger Woods PGA Tour growing up. I also don't steal cars, and I played GTA. I'm just messing with you, but honestly, the N64 game that I had, I didn't buy it. My parents didn't buy it. I wasn't allowed to watch wrestling. I only had it, and it was WrestleMania 2000, by the way. I have a hat. I should have worn it for this, knowing there were so many questions about that. I had a buddy who would bring the game over, and we would play it. I didn't know who the characters were or anything. I just saw it almost like a Mortal Kombat. My perception of it was just a fighting game. It wasn't a wrestling game. My friend told me that he only ever played the game when he came over to hang out with me. So he just left the game at my house, and we would always play it. I got to play it while he was gone, and then eventually we kind of separated. We didn't really talk as we grew older, but I kept playing that N64 game. Even when I got a new console, that was a game that I would always boot up and want to play just because I liked it. So you could say that there was a part of me that knew I was going to like wrestling, but I didn't even really think to try to connect those dots. I was just playing the game, and that game did have their finishers in it. It did have the Undertaker. I had some context going into what I have right now that I could remember as a kid. Just I didn't have anything real to apply what I was seeing to. And then I started playing the 2K games a couple years before I started watching, just because I was streaming on Twitch and I thought it would be funny to name my subscribers after wrestlers and watch them punch each other. Again, Deporticus on Twitch. We have a blast. Crash says, do you think you'll go back and watch full pay-per-views or old Raw, SmackDown shows on Patreon? Probably not anytime soon. If I had a stronger upload speed, maybe, but we can't get a faster internet speed while we live where we are, so maybe if we move. It takes me long enough to upload some of like the watch-alongs that go like an hour, so trying to do a full PLE from like 1999 or something, it would just take, the time it would take would not be worth it. I wouldn't be able to get anything else done while my computer's doing that, so not yet. Someday, not now. Riley says, what do you think is next for Chad Gable? Love your videos. Anyone seeing this and you like wrestling, definitely subscribe. Thanks, Riley. You should listen to Riley and subscribe to this channel. About Chad Gable, I don't know. I feel like he's going to get rewarded eventually. I feel like right now he has been given a spot where he is a part of an extremely important storyline to the WWE. Not everybody might love the Wyatt Six, but the WWE seems very invested in making this look fantastic. And I think Gable, and at this point, the Creed brothers, who I'm not usually a fan of, I think they're all doing a pretty good job of making them look good. I think it's becoming a really well put together story. And I think it's going to be a situation where Gable is giving a lot right now to help the WWE and to make this look fantastic when everybody wanted him to be pushed for a title. And when this is all over, I think Chad Gable is going to get rewarded handsomely. So mark my words. I think as soon as he's done with this Wyatt Six stuff, he is going to be in either an IC title chase, heavyweight title, something. He's going to get rewarded if this continues to go as well as it is. This is an 8 says, any other collaborations you have your eye on? Yes, I have some pending. I have some that have been pending for months. It's mostly just a scheduling thing, a recording time thing, but there's also some others that I'm not pending with that I would love to work with. I'm not going to say who they are because I don't want somehow there to be a clip that pressures them or makes them feel like they need to respond to it or anything. But yes, there's absolutely some creators that I would really love to work with at some point. So if those paths cross and stuff happens, I would love to talk wrestling with some of my favorite creators. Forgot About Drea says, if you could make one crossover match between AEW and WWE, what would it be? I'm going to answer this in a way of like, what is one that I would like to see instead of if I could only do one, because then I feel like I'm going to cloud my mind of like trying to think of what would be the best one. One that I would add to a list of that I'm sure everybody else has put together is LA Knight versus MJF, but only if we get a lot of promos leading up to it. I feel like watching LA Knight and MJF go head to head both of them working with like similar rules that like TNT gives, or is it TBS, one or the other gives to AEW. I would love to see LA Knight and MJF go head to head with some microphones and in a match, but on the microphone especially, with a little less limitations that the WWE might have. Darth Ramius says, of all the wrestlers whose careers ended before you became a fan, which has been your favorite to watch so far? Ooh, that's hard, but Mick Foley is definitely one of them. Mick Foley, especially because I have watched his interview on Hot Ones, I believe it was. I've seen some other interviews. The guy just seems great. The guy just seems like he cares about the business. He cares about the fans. He wants to entertain, even if it means sacrificing his own body. And I'm glad that with all the crazy stuff that he has done, I'm glad he is fine. I'm glad he's okay. I'm glad he has made it. But that is someone who I have loved going back and seeing matches from, because knowing how much he cares about his fans and how much he wants just to put on the best show possible, it really makes it easy to appreciate some of the insane things that he did for the sake of entertaining thousands and thousands or millions of people. Wrath says, have you enjoyed a certain wrestler in AEW? My favorite is MJF. I could see why your favorite would be MJF. He's very likable in terms of his character. I'm still learning a lot of names in AEW, but two that I know really stand out to me. For in-ring, I will go Will Ospreay. For mic work, I'll probably agree with you with MJF, and a little bit of both. I'm gonna go with Toni Storm. I think her character is so unique and interesting, and she's fun to watch in the ring. So there's three for you that I really like from AEW. Danny says, are you a fan of the edgier side of wrestling or the calm, more PG product? I think there's a place for both. I know it's not what you're asking, and it's kind of a lame answer, so I will say that I probably would like to lean on the a little bit edgier side, but I don't want it to just be like F-bombs, blood all the time. I really think that the PG stuff is fine with me, with a side of the edgy stuff mixed in along the way. I think then it makes the edgy stuff feel a little bit more impactful when it's not every single week and every single segment. I feel like if it's PG most of the time, the edgy stuff starts to feel like it's breaking a rule, and it kind of feels a little bit cooler. Whereas if it's just happening all the time, then it's really not that edgy. It's just the normal, you know? Please says, I don't get how you keep it copacetic. I'll admit, I Googled it. I don't really know what you mean by that even after Googling it. Agreeable? Like, you mean like positive or happy? I don't know. It's a life decision that I made a couple years ago to always look for something I like in what I'm watching. I don't really know. I like to try to enjoy things. I don't go into something looking to find the things I don't like to critique it. I will watch something that I expect I'm not gonna like, looking for things that I do like, and then I expand on it, and then sometimes I end up liking it. Great example of that is professional wrestling. If I wasn't so copacetic, I don't know if I'd be a wrestling fan. You're welcome to explain what you meant by that more in the comments. I'll look for it. I'm not really sure if that's what you were asking. Sean Sterling says, have you ever seen the video Professional Wrestling is Beautiful by Super Eyepatch Wolf? It's a great video for people interested in wrestling. You are a little bit more experienced than the people the video is intended for, but it's a great video you might be interested in showing people you know. I have seen it. I've seen a few videos by Super Eyepatch Wolf, and I think you should too. My favorite one was The Unreality of Wrestling, I believe it's called. It really follows the story of Roman Reigns, but I've loved that guy's work, especially the stuff regarding wrestling. But I would highly recommend, if anybody hasn't already, you should go check out those videos. All right, if anybody has any other questions and you want to just talk more, like I said, first 24 hours this video is up. Drop different comments and I'm happy to go down. I'll be chatting with you guys, happy to answer as much as I can. And if you want to keep talking beyond the video and beyond that 24 hours, join the Discord. Toxic free environment. You can be a fan of all promotions, any promotions. There's no hate really allowed there. You can be critical and you can talk wrestling, you can debate a little bit, but nothing toxic. We don't do personal attacks. It's just a place where you can go to enjoy loving wrestling, all of it. I appreciate you watching this video. Feel free to hit the like button on your way out. Thank you to the patrons flying up the screen. I will see you all in the next one.